right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. It's now time for our newspaper review, and we'll start by taking a look at the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. And we have the lead and only story here that talks about ICT. Agric boosts GDP to 2.25% in third quarter. And you can find details of that on page 3. And then there's a pictorial of a crowd of APC supporters at the campaign flag-off in Gaya Township, in Gaya Emirates, Kano State. You also have Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State raising his hand, or the hand of Kano APC governorship candidate, Dr. Nasiru Yusuf Gawuna, during the flag-off ceremony of campaign for gubernatorial, national and state assembly contestants in Gaya Township, Kano South Senatorial District on Wednesday. And Governor Ganduje is flanked by Honorable Murtala Sulegaro, Deputy Governorship candidate, Senator Kabir Ibrahim Gaya, and Rabiu Suleiman Bichi. And, this is all we can take on Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Daybreak newspaper. The lead story
not necessarily
tribal or regional. And that's according to INEC. And some of the writers there say, we have always said we don't have such NNPP court orders. Journalists should discharge duties within ambit of law. That's according to the NUJ president. And just like the story on the Daily Trust newspaper, we have a mammoth crowd there where you see Ganduje and other politicians in the campaign rally. Now, you'd find other stories as well on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Obasanjo to Nigerian youth: don't allow those messing up your future succeed. That story is on page 6, and then tasks younger generation to change African narrative. APC Guba, Court of Appeal upholds Binani's Bwacha as Adama Taraba candidates. Sacks Rivers Guba candidate Koli. Senate probes job racketeering in NDDC. That story is on page 5. And then you see the story about 2023, Saraki urges Nigerians to kick out APC. Atiku pledges $10 billion jobs. On page 8, you'd find this story about I'll make Southeast Taiwan of Africa. This is according to Tinubu. These are the major stories on the Blueprint.
All right, with that, we'll take a look at the Guardian newspaper. We have the lead story that says decline in oil gas output hampers growth amid recession fears, and a writer that says Nigeria in technical recession, says experts. At the top of the page there, we also have flawed, prepare for high cost of food, increased hunger, farmers warn Nigerians. We have Senate committee clears Umana, dismisses 480 billion naira fraud allegation. And you can find details of that on page 7. Sanwo-Olu at LSSTF town hall meeting promises improved security on page 29. We also have Kosil condemns alleged assassination attempt on Obi during rally, and details of that can be found on page 27. We also have after the floods, picking pieces of ruined investments and livelihoods, and that is the big story on the Guardian newspaper. You can see a pictorial of some of these flawed victims, trying to salvage what's left of their property. We also have PDP, CUPP, others slam Adamu over deployment of beavers, and these are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there says electronic result transmission, beware of fraud, opposition warns INEC. APC recants, and the writers there say Electoral Commission under pressure over beavers. That's according to the PDP. APC has hidden agenda on 2023 elections, Labour Party alleges. I'm concerned about poor telecoms network, says Adamu. And then you see a pictorial there that shows you the fuel scarcity looks like it's back, and marketers are warning of possible petrol price increase. You can read the details of that story on page 30 on the Punch newspaper this morning. And right at the top, above the nameplate, court stops Nigeria Air indefinitely, adjourns case till 2023. Well, that's bad news. If you want details of that story, you can grab a copy of the Punch. Then reps worry over federal government China $475 million deal. Economic downturn hits manufacturers, oil, service firms. And then you see a story about Northern APC Christian leaders divided over presidential candidates. 3 days to hand over. Oyetola appoints 30 personal assistants. Kidnappers in army uniform abduct Lagos passengers. Probe begins. And then you find another story that says impeachment. You are misinformed, biased. Lawmakers tell Ekiti Sands. These are the major stories on the Punch.
All right, up next is the Nation newspaper, and from the top of the page there we have a story that says, "Can to Nigerians vote your conscience." We also have court sustains injunction stopping Nigeria Air takeoff. Details on page 7. African teams in sloppy World Cup start. We also have Adeleke, Al-Sak Permsex inaugurated by Oyetola. And just below the nameplates there, we have Appeal Court reinstates Binani, Bwacha's Adama Taraba candidates. PDP G5 governors won't bow to intimidation. Atiku, are you absent at Abia rally? And we have just below the pictorial of the APC presidential candidates. Tinubu says he'll review policies hindering commerce in Southeast. Now, the lead story on the Nation newspaper talks about NNPCL marketers defer over lingering petrol scarcity, and a rider that says queues lengthening in Lagos, Abuja, others. We have just below on the footnotes there, ransom cash recovered from kidnapped suspects in Ekiti. 4 policemen shot dead. And these are some of the stories on the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at one more paper this morning before we start the review of some of the stories on our dailies this morning. On the Leadership newspaper, APC Muslim ticket, Dogara Achuba, 6 others disown Babachir over support for Obi. Say he can't speak for group to make position public soon. We can't force anyone to support our candidate, that's according to the Labour Party. And Atiku Tinubu take campaign to Kwara, Aboying. I see the story also about federal government destroys 3,000 seized weapons. Senate committee clears Umana, dismisses 480 billion naira fraud allegation. Adeleke vows to sack Oyetola's last-minute palm sex. You'd find other stories as well. PMB seeks regional cooperation on terrorism, trans-border crimes. DSS withdraws court case against Tukurmamu. And then for some sports, Qatar 2022, after first round of matches, African teams yet to win. We are satisfied with Dangote's performance in CSR, that's according to the House of Representatives. These are the major stories on the Leadership this morning.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the analysis of some of these stories. And we have in the studio our guest, Mr. Kehinde Amodu. He's our in-house analyst joining us for the newspaper review. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so let's begin with the story on Daily Trust newspaper talking about ICT and Agric to boost GDP to 2.5% in third quarter. Now, how feasible is that, considering the fact that when it comes to Agric, the flood and insecurity has actually stopped farmers from, going back to the farms?
I think the projection, of course, will be based on how much has been invested in agriculture and how much government is hoping to invest in agriculture despite the floods. You notice that what government has said going forward is that there will be huge investment in dry season farming. I don't know how feasible that will be. It will depend on how up and running the various dams are, the various irrigation projects are. But government has said that it is going to invest in dry season farming, and so yeah, it's probably looking at that for a projection. Well, no, ICT is a growing sector in the Nigerian economy, rapidly growing, and is showing no signs of slowing up yet. A lot of the younger population are there in ICT, and so it's probably a good projection, a realistic projection that ICT will lead, agriculture will lead, based on how much activity is going on in both sectors.
So do you think, like particularly local farmers, do you think they have enough education about dry season farming?
Well, the issue of dry season farming has always been there, but dry season farming always happens around the dams. That's why I said how many of the dams are up and running now. It always happens around the dams. The second season, it's called the second season of planting, which you plant crops such as maize, those crops that come towards the dry season and are fed by irrigation water. It's different from rain-fed agriculture, which relies on the rains. So I don't know. Government has made the noise that it will invest in dry season farming. We wait to see how realistic that will be.
Okay, now there's this story here on DSS denying withdrawing suit against terrorist negotiator Mamu. You know, there are rumors flying around that they'd actually withdrawn the suit against him, but they're coming out now to deny, you know, this particular rumor. Can you share your thoughts on that?
It wouldn't be that it was withdrawing, that government was, that DSS was withdrawing the suit against Tuku Mamu. I think what happened was that they withdrew the extension of his incarceration or detention for another 60 days. That's what I understand. So it doesn't amount to withdrawing the suit against Tuku Mamu. Of course, you know, in situations like this, there are levels of information that are put out with the mindset or with the motive of swaying public opinion. The government will put out its information. The people that are on the side or are sympathetic to Mamu will also put out information based on how they see it. So it's the interpretation of the information now that we are seeing out in the public space. One part says they're withdrawing the case, but of course it's just a small part of the case that has been amended. What has been withdrawn is the detention of Mamu for another 60 days. It doesn't mean that they have withdrawn any case. Of course, you know the information here. Mamu is self-styled himself as the terrorist negotiator. And then government amended that title and said he was a terrorist collaborator. So, you know, all those things are out there in the public space and just for the public to pick up.
All right, let's quickly take a look at the City and Crime page on Daily Trust newspaper. We have a story here that talks about a woman being charged with posting obscene things about her family on TikTok, and this happened in Lagos. We also have my husband feels I'm a burden, woman tells court. Police deny killing 2 Okada riders in Akwa Ibom. We also have fake AIG nabbed in Abuja, and we have another story here that talks about EFCC arraigning Indian over 816 million naira fraud. There's this other one that talks about Police are arraigning two for robbery in Benue. A man snatches neighbor's car in Ibadan. And Kogi Poly rectors saying that they have stamped out cultism kidnapping on campus. What's your take on, the crime, and the and everything happening?
Crime exists in society. We see different manifestations of crime.
Yeah.
Some are funny, for instance. Some are coming with modern society. The woman posting obscene things about her family, which I think goes against the cultural setting in Nigeria now, which is being gradually eroded because of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and the likes. The man who snatched his neighbor's car, these are normal crimes, crimes that happen. So yeah, crime is one of the manifestations of society, that people live together in a space. It's good that these crimes are discovered and they're being prosecuted by law enforcement agencies, which is probably why we have them out in the space.
All right, let's move on to a little bit of politics. Now, the appeal court has reinstated Binani and Bocha as APC governorship candidates in, the various states. Can you share your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm delighted about the Binani case because she was the only female governorship candidate that emerged out of the primaries of all the parties, well, all the major parties. And I thought that that was speaking to there being more variety in the political process. It was also speaking about women coming on their own, arriving at that point in which they had one governorship candidate, and then suddenly we had a court saying that she wasn't properly, the primaries that produced her were not properly technicalities as far as I'm concerned. And now she's been reinstated by the appeal court. One striking thing or interesting thing is the reaction of the Minister of Women Affairs to the news that she had been reinstated. She was so excited about it. And it shows that women actually want someone they can line up behind. And it also shows, like the minister said, that the narrative that women don't like themselves or don't support themselves.
Absolutely, I think that has changed this time around. But did that come to you as a surprise? Because there are so many controversies around it, and people are saying, well, they're not going to allow her, they're going to put pressure on her, and subsequently the court might be in favor of the male folks. But Binani, being...
No, I think our judiciary up till now, all along, have shown that there is strong judiciary. They've taken some strong decisions in this period of time, and many of them have not favored government circles, so to speak. So I didn't think, because if you looked at the reasons advanced, I didn't think that the appeal court would let that court ruling stand. But it's a good thing that the judicial process has brought this about. And it might not be the end of the story, because some people might want to take it as far as the Supreme Court. But the good thing now is that APC at least can breathe a sigh of relief that it has a governorship candidate, and it doesn't have to go through all that process of organizing primaries or whatever again. In the case of Taraba State, I'm still watching to see what will happen because it actually is a struggle between two senators. Senator Boacha and his group on the one hand, and then Senator Yusuf and his group on the other hand. And then it's also a situation we have to watch and wait and see. If it will go all the way to the Supreme Court, if they are willing to stretch it that far, or whether time will not allow them. Because elections are upon us, and any court ruling that comes after this will probably just disrupt the flow of things.
Okay, but do you think Nigerians are ready for a woman to, lead or be in the helm of affairs, especially as a governorship candidate?
I don't see why not. The point about it is that we have women ministers, strong women ministers, who have been giving orders to men all along. We've had the finance minister who has given orders, made some pronouncements, taken some decisions that male governors were not happy about, but she stood her ground. And we've had that for quite a while. We had it since Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and you can't say that she didn't perform well. So yeah, Nigerians are coming to the point in which they recognize that women can stand their own, can deliver, can do a good job, and can also do as bad as men.
I think that's where the balance comes.
All right, so let's still talk about politics. Just one more before we move on to more papers. Now, there's a story here on Inside Politics on page 32 of Daily Trust newspaper that talks about the 2023 polls and how opposition parties are slamming the APC chair and insisting on BVAs. Now, apparently, he expressed concerns, on the deployment of technology during the elections, and opposition parties are after him, saying BVAs must be deployed, for free and fair election.
Well, it didn't stop as BVAS. I think his main concern was on the real-time electronic transmission of results, which he says that many areas in Nigeria do not have the network to push the electronic transmission of results. And so that issue should be studied very carefully, because the strength of that system will depend on good network by the various network companies. But that is an argument, and he's entitled to his own opinion, which is what I believed when I saw that. INEC believes that it will be able to deploy that technology, deploy it well. It has done some tests in some states running up to these elections, and so it believes that it is ready to deploy that technology.
Just in addition, I think we actually, read a story of, the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy saying that he has launched digital projects to help increase broadband penetration.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, So, in the last 3 years or so, there's been an increase in the penetration of broadband across the country. And, the fears has always been the rural areas, not even the urban centers. How far can you go? For instance, the border communities. How far has network penetrated the border communities? Because you find in some border communities, they probably even rely more on network from across the country than what is in the country. It's probably stronger there. But if INEC does not deploy the technology now, when will it deploy it? I believe that the time is ripe for the deployment of technology. Not all, you can't expect 100% across the world. That's the way electoral processes are. Even during the US elections that saw Trump out, he had a problem with mail votes, because he felt that that was where the votes would be manipulated. And so, and true enough, a lot of those votes that came in through the mails are what led to his defeat. So, people will always have a problem with one part of the electoral process or the other. I believe that INEC has shown courage, and it needs to stamp its foot and continue to show courage and not be manipulated, so that there can be some progress. I believe that what INEC wants is free, fair, credible, transparent elections, and I think to a large extent Nigerians will get it this time around.
No, we hope so then. Now, this is very disturbing. The queues it seems like the queues are back, and it's so annoying. And we're seeing at the moment that the NNPCL marketers, they're at loggerheads regarding the fuel crisis, and fuel scarcity that is still happening within cities.
Yeah, it's worrying, because it seems as if anytime there's a slight sneeze now, the queues will come back. Anytime there's a disruption in the supply chain, the queues will come back. The last increase from 165 to 180 was done so quietly, and all we just knew was that the queues were there. You understand, and the initial excuse was that trucks were delayed at flood-prone areas in Kogi State, and then the queues refused to go away. And then suddenly, eventually what it led to is a price increase from 165 to 180. And then in the blink of an eye, within 1 or 2 weeks, it's not barely 2 weeks, the queues are back. And what it seems, when NNPC and the marketers are disagreeing, is that the marketers will be pushing for another price increase. And it's rather unfortunate, because Nigerians need to know what is exactly the real story behind everything. And this is not good for the government.
Do you think they're pushing for another increase?
No, basically, what if NNPC and marketers are disagreeing, it's going to be about not the price of fuel at the ports, but at the price of all the logistics that will get fuel to the filling stations. And so, even at that point when it was upgraded or increased to 180, there were still marketers that were saying that that price was not even the right price. It needed to go up a bit. So in the next few days, we'll see what will happen. At least we are not hearing NNPC telling us now that there's enough fuel there's not fuel at the depots and everything. You understand? What we are hearing is that there's a disagreement between NNPC and the marketers about what the price will be. You understand? About what the cause, not the price actually, about what the cause of a return of queues to fuel stations. That's where the disagreements arise. Okay.
Now, can you share your thoughts on, court stopping Nigerian Air indefinitely and adjourning case till 2023?
Well, the Nigerian Air project is one that has been dogged with all sorts of challenges from the time that it was thought of. There was a delay for 1 year after its first showing. It was actually even opened up at an international fair. And then for a long time, to get it going off the ground, it was grounded because of cases of disagreements like this. Now, the latest disagreement with Nigerian Air is that the partner, which is supposed to be Ethiopian Air, Nigerian Airlines are saying the partner is not the right partner. Why didn't Nigeria look inwards and take a look at airlines that within the country? Now, the point about that is it's a business. It doesn't have anything to do with sentiments. It's a business proposition. And this is a person, and this is the partner that the Nigerian authorities feel can drive Nigerian Air to the point of success. And if you look at their business case, if you look at what they've done over the years, that's Ethiopian Air, you know that there is every likelihood that it will. The questions and concerns that arise about capital flight, because obviously if Ethiopian Airways is running the airline, capital will go out of the country because the Ethiopian Airlines will make its profit and all that. And so it's a case that will continue to revolve around. I don't think, now if the court has adjourned the case on Nigeria Air to 2023, it means you are leaving it for the next administration to take up.
Wow,
Yeah. Meanwhile, the president had hoped, and the Minister of Aviation had hoped, that by December it would pick up and start off. So if there is now that blockage, and it can't take off in December, and then the court has to rule on this case in 2023, we might as well assume that it's not going to pick off in the life of this administration. And its picking off at all will depend on the administration that is coming, whether it is sympathetic to that project or whether it is not. So I don't want to assume that it's clinically dead, but let's see what,
well,
what
I had
happens going
hoped,
forward.
truly, because at some point, I think I read that it was supposed to provide over 60,000 jobs, and I think applications were already going out. There were calls for applications for people that wanted to work with the Nigerian Air, and now this very sad news.
No, it was supposed, December had been designated as the takeoff date. But like I said, it's hard to check out the history. There's been a lot of things that have dogged it right from its presentation. A lot of people are not really comfortable, and they saw it as a white elephant project. And but I don't understand why there's so much kick against it. The last time Nigeria had attempted to do a national carrier like that, you remember, was during the time of Virgin Nigeria, which was supposed to be a similar arrangement in which Virgin and the Nigerian government would partner to set up an airline, which they did. It was a very successful airline until Nigeria and Virgin started having problems concerning agreements that had been reached before the airline started off, which led to Nigeria pulling out of Virgin and setting up Air Nigeria and making it a private concern rather than a national carrier. Now this time around, same arrangement, not particularly the same arrangement. Well, Nigeria partners with a foreign airline who will operate alongside Nigeria, provide the services, and then when it is up and running, hand over back to Nigeria, and then there's that kickback that says, no, we don't want it. Why don't you look inwards?
Okay, well, I think with that, we've come to the end of the newspaper review. Thank you so much, Mr. Kende Amodu, for joining us this morning to analyze some of these stories.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that was our in-house analyst, Kende Amodu. And with that, we'll go on a break. When we come back at the top of the hour, the show continues. Do stick around.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that